Welcome to the CorpVault channel. In this video we will discuss CommVault version 11, Oracle Database Configuration. Please like, share, comment or suggest. Subscribe for more videos, and you can follow us on Instagram. For this video, it is just Standalone Oracle database that we are configuring. We will discuss Oracle Rack configuration in another video. In the client computers, find the client for which you wish to configure Oracle DB backups. You would see Base Agent File System and Oracle Agent installed on the server. Double-click the Oracle Agent. There are no instances, in Oracle terms, or ACIDs configured. Right-click to see available options. Discover Instance. You can select this option if you want CommVault to auto-discover Oracle instances configured on the server. You can disable or enable automatic instance discovery by adding a registry key or additional setting called and DB discovery interval. By default, when you discover an Oracle instance, the CommVault software automatically creates a default data subclient and a default archive log subclient. Best practice is to not modify the default archive log subclient properties. On-demand instance. You can create an on-demand instance to perform ad hoc Oracle database backup when needed. Use customized RMAN scripts to run backups for on-demand instances. Please note, after you create an on-demand instance, you cannot change it to a traditional instance. Also, do not create on-demand instances to run maintenance scripts. Instead, run third-party command line jobs to perform maintenance operations. For this video, we create instance manually, so let's select New Instance, Oracle SID. Creating new Oracle instance. General tab. Client name displays the name of the client computer. iData agent displays the backup agent type. Instance, Oracle SID. Type the name of the instance. Oracle user. Type the name of the user account. This information is provided by the Oracle database admin. Usually, it is the username to access the Oracle application on a Unix client from the CommScell console. The user could be either Oracle or SID name followed by ADM. Oracle Home. Type or click Browse to specify the path to the application's home directory. This information is provided by the Oracle DBA. Storage policy used for the data of default subclient. Select a storage policy from the list that is used for the data backups. Description. You can use this space to add information like change or incident number, cautionary notes, etc. Details tab. Connect string is an account with database administrator privileges to access the Oracle database, that is, standard and recovery catalog databases. These details are usually provided by Oracle DB admin. You can use / if you are not aware of the username. If you know, then add the database user ID. Normally DB admins keep it as RMAN, but cross-check with them. Click Tab to add the password for the user ID. After, @ type Oracle service name, which is the instance, or SID name. Use Catalog Connect. When selected, a connection is established between the target database and the recovery catalog database, using the specified connect string, and the recovery catalog database will be used for backups. Enter recovery catalog database user ID. Password for the user ID. Recovery catalog service name. When cleared, there will be no connection between the target database and the recovery catalog database, and the target database control files will be used for backups. TNS admin folder is the path to the TNS admin directory. Disable RMAN crosscheck. This option is disabled by default. When disabled, the CommVault software automatically runs an RMAN script that sets the prunable backup piece to unavailable when the data aging job runs. When you select this option, the CommVault software does not run the script, which causes the prunable backup piece to remain unchanged when the data aging job runs. You can change the cross-check timeout from default value of 600 seconds to a desired value. Automatic backup of control files lists the configuration options available to auto backup of control file, so that every time a backup or copy command is executed in RMAN, an auto backup of the control file is performed. We always recommend keeping it on. Block size. Specify the block size for backup and restore operations on the selected instance. You can disable the block size by setting the value to 0. In such cases, the default RMAN block size value of 1 MB will be used for backup and restore operations. If set, the value must be a multiple of the minimum physical block size of the Oracle database. Storage Device tab. Storage Policy. Storage policy used for user command line data backup. Specify the storage policy used for command line backups and restores. Command line backups are the ones that are started using RMAN commands from Oracle, and not from CommVault. Storage policy used for log backups. Specify the storage policy used to back up archive log files. Number of archive log backup streams. Specifies the number of backup streams to be used for backing up archive log files. Data transfer option. Use this tab to establish the options for data transfer. Software compression. You can enable it on client or on media agent, or use storage policy settings, or turn it off. Please note that hardware compression has priority over the software compression. Software compression option will take effect when the data path is associated with a disk library, or when hardware compression is disabled in the data path associated with tape libraries. Resource tuning indicates the processes used by the client to transfer data, and whether bandwidth throttling is enabled or not. Network agents specifies the number of data pipes, or processes, that the client uses to transfer data over a network. Increasing this value may provide better throughput, if the network and the network configuration in your environment can support it. The default value is 2, and a maximum of 4 can be set if necessary. Throttle network bandwidth in MB per hour. By default this option is not selected, and therefore the throughput is not controlled. When selected, the backup throughput is controlled. You can specify a value for the throughput. By default, this is set to 500. The minimum value is 2 MB, and the maximum you can set is approximately 2 PB. Use this option to set the backup throughput based on the network bandwidth in your environment. Use it to reduce the backup throughput, so that the entire network bandwidth is not consumed, especially in slow links. Increasing this value will end up consuming the bandwidth. Please note that throttling is done on a per network agent basis. Deduplication tab. Enable deduplication. Use this option to enable or disable deduplication for the subclient. If enabled, you can choose to generate the signature on the client or on the media agent computer. Encryption tab. None. No encryption will take place during backups. Media only, media agent side. When selected, data is transmitted without encryption, and then encrypted prior to being stored on storage. During restore operations, data is decrypted by the client. Network and media agent side. When selected, data is encrypted before transmission, and is stored encrypted on the media. During restore operations, data is decrypted by the client. Network only, agent encrypts, media agent decrypts. When selected, data is encrypted for transmission, and then decrypted prior to storage on the media. During restore operations, Data is encrypted by the media agent, and then decrypted in the client. Activity Control tab. Use this window to enable or disable backup, restore, or data aging operation for this instance. By default, all three options are enabled. If disabled, particular activity will not run, and enable after a delay button appears next to the activity. It allows you to predetermine the date and time at which data management operations should begin automatically. Once done, click OK. Oracle instance created successfully. Right-click on the instance to check available options. Almost all options are like the ones we discussed in other videos. Select Properties. Oracle version and DB ID are not showing the details. Let's check Oracle status. Click Refresh. Oracle is in shutdown status, hence we are unable to get the details. Oracle DB admin need to check why the DB is showing shutdown status. Remaining tabs are same as we discussed before. Let's check the details on the different Oracle instance. This is a working Oracle instance. If you notice for this instance, we see the Oracle version, and DB ID is showing relevant information. Click Refresh to check Oracle status. Oracle status is open. Ensure you always need to have Oracle status showing open for both backup and recovery operations. Recovery may be in place or out of place, but the Oracle status should show open. For this instance, our man user is being used for connect string. Rest all tabs remain the same. Let's try to configure SubClient for the earlier instance. Double-click the instance name. Double-click on SubClient to open the SubClient properties. General tab. It gives information about client name, iData agent name, Oracle instance name, and SubClient name, which can be modified if needed. Click on the Content tab. We received error. Database view cannot be displayed. Please check if database is mounted. We received this error because the database instance is in shutdown state. Contact Oracle admin to get the database instance to open status, so we can connect to it and view contents for backup. Let's check these settings on a working database instance. Let's get to the SubClient. We see there are two SubClients: Default, Selective Online Full. We will discuss about it in some time. Double-click on Default SubClient to open Properties window. General tab. It gives information about client name, iData agent name, Oracle instance name, and SubClient name. Content tab. Selective Online Full specifies if Selective Online Full backups will be performed for this SubClient. Data specifies if data files will be backed up for this SubClient using one of the backup modes. Under Backup mode, you have three choices. Online database is the backup of the online database. Offline database is the backup of the offline database. The database must be in the mount mode when the backup is started. Online subset is the backup of a subset of database objects. Once you select the option, you receive the warning stating that you are choosing to backup or protect subset of Oracle database, and you will not be able to recover full database. Click Yes if you wish to continue, and use the tree displayed in the current database view to add new or modify the subsets. The database must be online and in archive log mode when the backup is started. Current database view displays the subsets made of table spaces and data files that are available in the database. Click to refresh the content of the database. Backup control file specifies whether the control files will be backed up or not. Backup SP file specifies whether the server parameter file will be backed up or not. Advanced tab. Backup arguments. RMAN multiplexing. Data files, BFS, specify the number of data files to be bundled in each RMAN backup set. Archive files, BFS, specify the number of archive files to be bundled in each RMAN backup set. Maximum number of open files is the maximum number of concurrent open data files that RMAN can read simultaneously during backup. RMAN backup set size. Specify the maximum size in kilobytes allowed for an RMAN backup set. Specify the maximum size in kilobytes allowed for an RMAN sector. In the backup tag, enter a character string that will be used as the backup tag argument. Offline arguments is for offline database backups. Run database shutdown or startup, lights out script. If not used, then you will have to manually start the database in mount mode before performing a backup of an offline database. If this option enabled, then it specifies whether a shutdown will be automatically executed before backing up databases. This script shuts down the database and uses the server parameter file to start up the database in mount mode. Once the backup is completed, the script opens the database. Please note, the lights out script is automatically installed with the Oracle iData agent. Broadcast warning message to users. Issues a message to users logged on to server that the database will be shut down in number of minutes specified in the delay time in minutes option. This works for Oracle on Unix. Delay time after warning message in minutes. Specify the number of minutes that you want the system to wait after the warning message is sent to the physical node before attempting to shut down the database. Number of retries. Specify the number of times that the system will retry to shut down the database when the delay time after warning message option is enabled. Sleep time between retries is the interval in seconds that you want the system to wait or sleep between retry attempts to shut down the database and check the status. Please note that this option is only activated when the database cannot be shut down during the first attempt after the delay time has expired. Use SQL Connect. When selected, the CommServe connects to the Oracle database using the SQL command with connect string. When not selected, the connection is established using the SQL command without connect string. Startup parameter file, P file, location, specifies the location of the P file to be used with the shutdown or startup script option. By default, the system uses the SP file, available in database directory, to start up the database. Options tab. Tablespace, or data files options. Skip read-only, specifies whether to omit, or exclude, read-only tablespaces from the backup. Skip offline, specifies whether to omit, or exclude, offline tablespaces from the backup. Common options. Validate is to run a validate backup job, which will cause RMAN to simulate a backup job for the purpose of determining whether the backup can be successfully restored. Enable table browse. When selected, the Oracle agent gathers the database tables and user information during online backups. A table view is displayed in the browse operation. Merge incremental image copies. When selected, you can create an image copy of a database, then regularly create incremental backups of the database, and apply them to this image copy. The system will update the image copy with all the incremental changes that have taken place since the previous full backup, using the system change number, SCN. This reduces the overhead of performing a full image copy of the database every day. Resync recovery catalog specifies whether the contents of the recovery catalog will be synchronized with the contents of the control file. Exclude from SLA, and strike counts, specifies to exclude the subclient from the SLA percentage and client strike calculation that appears on the CommCell dashboards, SLA report, and client strike count report. Pre-Post Process tab. Pre-Backup Process specifies the path of the backup process to run or execute before the respective phase. Manually type or use the Browse button to search for and select the name and path of the process. If there are spaces in the name and path, provide quotation mark at the beginning and the end of the path. Post-backup process specifies the path of the backup process to run or execute after the respective phase. Run post-backup process for all attempts specifies whether this process will execute for all attempts to run the phase. If selected, it will execute the post-backup process for all attempts to run the phase, including situations where the job is interrupted, suspended, or fails. Storage Device tab. We discussed about these a little while ago, hence let's skip this tab. We discussed Activity Control tab before. Skipping Encryption tab as well. IntelliSnap Operations tab. These options are available if you select a hardware snap engine. IntelliSnap. Enable or disable IntelliSnap backup for this subclient. Available snap engines. Lists the available snapshot engine vendors. Select a snapshot engine vendor from the list that is configured in your environment. Manage Array. Provides access the array management window, which helps you to add or modify access information for an array. Use Proxy. Select the proxy server that will be used for performing the IntelliSnap backup operations. Use Source if proxy is unreachable, which means, if the proxy client is unreachable, use the source computer, which is typically the client server, which will be used during snap backup of the job. Use RMAN for backup copy. Select to use RMAN for copying the data to the media, that is, when data is moved from snap to media. The RMAN backup interface is used for block-level backup operations. Also, RMAN is required in the case of automatic storage management, ASM, Oracle databases, since ASM data is not available on the file system. Enable Snap Integrity Check is to run integrity check of a hardware snap during an IntelliSnap backup. Log Backup tab. Backup Archive Log specifies whether to backup or delete archived redo log files, which are needed in order to recover the database to a point in time. This option is not available for offline database. Archive Delete specifies whether archived redo log files will be deleted once they are backed up. You cannot select this option when you have selected the Archive Delete All option. Please note, the CommVault software inserts the delete input command into the generated RMAN script. This only deletes the specific copy of the archived redo log for the chosen backup set. Disable Switch Current Log. When selected, log switching is disabled for the current redo log file during an archive log backup. However, this option is not applicable for snap log backups. Use RMAN for log backup. This option is applicable for snap backup only. When selected, this option allows you to perform a traditional RMAN backup, instead of taking snap for log volume. Select Archive Log Destinations for backup. Specifies the location from where the archive logs will be backed up. Use Add and Delete to administer these locations. Select Archive Log Destinations for delete. Specifies the location from where the archive logs will be deleted. Let's discuss about Selective Online Full. The subclient creation is same as any other user subclient creation. Click Content tab. A Selective Online Full backup is a full backup that you perform when the database is online. The moment you select Selective Online Full Backup, all options under Data is grayed out, along with Backup Control File. A Selective Online full subclient includes the data, logs and control file. Please note, normal full, level 0, and incremental, level 1, backups cannot be auxiliary copied. Selective Online full backup can be copied to a secondary copy during the auxiliary copy operation, and you can restore it from the copy. The advantage of a Selective Online full backup is that the data and logs use the same storage policy, which means that they reside on the same media, and are self-contained for long-term archiving. The data and logs are aged together, under the same storage policy, for a Selective Online full backup, which is different than regular full backups. Any log job you start within the time frame of the Selective Online full operation is linked to the Selective Online full job. These logs, and the Selective Online full, are then considered as one entity within the software. Please go through vendor's documentation site for rules that apply to Selective Online full backups. All other tabs remain same as default subclient. Please note, when you have similar setup, like in the video, do not perform archive delete of archive redo logs using Selective Online full subclient. Instead, enable it on the default subclient to ensure there is no log dependency on both subclients. We will end this video here. In our next video we will discuss Oracle backup options using CommVault console. Do subscribe to our channel if not already done so. Do subscribe for more videos. Thank you.